Will Clemson give Tiger fans a win they can believe in? We'll talk about it right here on Locked On Clemson.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked On Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM, The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if you're an everydayer, we give you a big salute. Thank you for joining us again, Monday through Friday. You know how we do it here. Exclusive Clemson content all throughout the week. And if you're new to the show, well, welcome in. Hit that like and subscribe button. 75% of you that watch or listen aren't yet subscribed. So what are you waiting for? Get exclusive Clemson content right here from a Clemson fan every single week and in the postgame shows as well during the season. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Clemson has won 2 straight on the road against North Carolina Tar Heels and Boston College. And those are things that we can feel good about. We should be feeling excited about that Clemson has kind of redeemed themselves from the start of the season that was really a disaster and kind of rebuilt the team a little bit in the right direction. But Clemson has not beaten a Power 4 team at home in quite some time. Fans remember back in the day when, Dabo Swinney got together a 40-game home winning streak. But recent home results against teams like Syracuse, LSU, and South Carolina have not been well for the Tigers and been very frustrating for Clemson in recent memory. And so the results don't look like what Clemson is used to and Clemson fans are used to. The results don't look like best is the standard. And it doesn't also look like two really great teams just battling it out to the very end. A lot of times it looks like Clemson is the team that is, I don't know, for the lack of better way of describing it, clueless. So the scoreboard is really what we use to track whether or not if Clemson can prove it this weekend. Clemson needs to hit on the points that matter the most, which are the points on the scoreboard. But they also have to do so throughout the game to win this game. And for fans to really kind of say, hey, they are, making progress or continuing to make progress. SMU and the matchup this weekend is going to be one of those games where I do believe you could count this as a good win. Maybe you could argue with me about Boston College and North Carolina, but a win is a win is a win. You have to stack wins. That is the main goal right now in trying to resurrect the season that has, really been a disaster at the beginning. So to me, one, win the game, get more points on the board. How will Clemson have to do that? Well, it could possibly be harder this weekend or tomorrow, if you will, because this is the Friday show, because they may be without Cade Clubnik. And the funny thing is that Cade Clubnik, really, we all were kind of asking for someone other than Cade Clubnik. And now we're saying we don't want anybody but Cade Clubnik. Are we just fickle fans in this moment here? Were we wrong, or do we not know what our heart really wants? I think it would have felt better having Christopher Vezina starting this game tomorrow if the limited time that he's had has been decent or serviceable, but it really hasn't been that good. The play calling has been pretty atrocious, and he's also thrown an interception. So he hasn't really done anything to help himself out either. And he really wasn't that good looking in the spring. Trent Pierman last year looked better. Chris Denson looked good this year. So he really wasn't a spring game star, and we don't get to see much, if anything, in the fall. And the limited time we've seen him during the season has been kind of, you really don't know what you're going to get. In order for Clemson to win this game, they're going to have a good first half of football. They can't go back to what we remember before the bye week, because what we remember before the bye week was terrible first quarters, terrible second quarters, a first half that really looked like they didn't know what they were wanting to do with the ball. They didn't really know what their strengths were. And some of their worst plays were their scripted plays. And a lot of pre-snap penalties, costing the team, putting them behind schedule, really hurting the team, making them have to gain more yards than necessary. Really, really hurt Clemson at the beginning of the season. They cannot, regardless of who the quarterback is, afford to go back there. So if Clemson wants to prove, if Dabo and the staff and Garrett Riley want to prove that they figured it out and they've fixed this team, then they have to be able to put up points regardless of the quarterback in the first half of this game. I'm saying they're going to need to have at least 17 points in the first half of this game, and they cannot afford to have any dumb penalties. They need to have maybe one. Let's just give them one, because you're not going to be perfect, right? But they cannot afford to have dumb false start penalties or holding penalties that were going to hurt them really bad, or motion penalties, whatever it may be. They cannot afford it on offense. They need as many points as they can get. And to me, in order to do that, they need to rely on what possibly could be the strength of the team, and that is run through Adam Randall first, and then start to leak him out into open space, and also use Adam Randall's running ability and that threat there to open up your handful of weapons that Clemson has. I believe the last 2 weeks, Clemson's weapons have really kind of opened up my eyes to what they have. I mean, you can name at least 5 players that you'd be very confident throwing the ball to, but you can't just start out doing that. There's not going, if Cade is not playing quarterback, and even if he is with a bum ankle, you do not want to throw the ball 50, 60 times. I don't believe that was ever a good scenario for success for Clemson, even with a healthy Cade Clubnik. So for me, this needs to be Adam Randall, superstar, megastar day, and he needs to lead the way. And everybody else needs to rally around him. Antonio Williams needs to be a star. Bryant Wesco needs a star. And then everybody else needs to rally around them. And Clemson still has a ton of other stars that I haven't even mentioned yet that I do trust, but they have to be able to get the ball to them without risking turning the ball over. You do not want to give SMU more opportunities by way of turnovers. Even good Clemson football teams have lost games because of turnovers or just a bunch of really bad penalties. So they cannot afford to shoot themselves in the foot in this scenario. And then from first half on to the second half, Clemson has been the past 2 weeks great in the first half, but extremely lackluster in the second half. And some of that has been Christopher Vezina. A lot of that has been Garrett Riley. Some of that has even been Trent Pierman. But they need to have multiple scoring drives in the second quarter, in the third quarter, and the fourth quarter as well. They cannot afford any empty quarters. This is a home game, and they need to continue to be able to score throughout the game and play a complete game and execute in the red zone successfully with their most valuable players, whether it be Peter Woods running the ball in, whether it be Christian Bentancur getting a red zone catch, or Tristan Smith or TJ Moore, whoever it may be. They need to get the ball into those guys' hands. And to me, one thing that can help Clemson in this scenario, where if you do not have your starting quarterback, is the crowd. The crowd has to stick with them and really help that defense. We'll talk about the defense more throughout this show as well. And in the third segment about creating uncomfortable moments. But we're going to continue to discuss the quarterback reality that Clemson may face tomorrow afternoon right here on Locked on Clemson. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered the most. Let's break it down. For Clemson, last week against Boston College, the player that I want to highlight in this segment is Keith Adams Jr. 7 carries, 49 yards, 7 yards per carry average, and a 1 touchdown where he's big bruiser, big fan favorite. They love to see him get into the end zone, and it's great to see one of the backups actually get a little bit of the carries and shine in a game where they win in a blowout 41-10. And just like Keith Adams Jr. delivered for Clemson against Boston College, DoorDash delivers on your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You can save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive, and fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period ends on November 18th. This episode is also brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts for a fast project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. If Cade is not able to play, completely sits for the game, or is limited for the game, the pass protection is going to be extremely is going to be matter a lot in this game against SMU. I mean, it's going to be extremely important. And really, to be honest with you, it may all come down to just simple throws. When I look at Christopher Vezina, when I look at Trent Pierman, or even Chris Denson, you don't want to stress these guys out with extremely complicated routes or deep throws or very difficult throws that you really trust Cade Clubnik to do more than those other guys. And even if Cade Clubnik is out there, you maybe don't want to do those throws like you used to, because a bad plant foot would hurt the accuracy, would hurt his ability to drive the ball through. And that's why an ankle matters a lot for a quarterback, and specifically for Cade Clubnik, because he does need to move around a little bit. And maybe, just maybe, someone like Christopher Vezina, if he does start, they use his legs a little bit more than what they did with Cade Clubnik. I would expect a simpler menu for someone like Christopher Vezina or Trent Pierman or Chris Denson, whoever they end up using. Quick throws, quick slants, screens. I know you don't want me to say it, but wide receiver screens or bubble screens or even running back screens. Actually, Clemson did really well with their screen game against Boston College. I'd say one of the better screen game plans that they've had in many years. The offensive line was moving with a purpose, and it was successful. And so easy completions to your playmakers will help the pass rush slow down, because I do believe that the weakness for SMU is their secondary and their coverage. I believe their strength is their pass rush and their outside edge rushers. So they have to deceive them. If you go back and look at teams like LSU, they don't push the ball down the field very much, even though they have a ton of really fast players. They didn't beat Clemson by throwing the ball down the field. They beat Clemson by throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage and within 9 yards or less. And Clemson can do that against SMU as well. And you don't need a superstar backup quarterback or starting quarterback to execute those plays successfully. But it all comes down to protection. Protection for whoever the quarterback is if they have to stay in the pocket for those short passes. Protection for the screen game to get out open in space. Use your agility to get out there, and also be able to get your hands on somebody and put them into the ground and be successful in that. SMU has been one of those teams that can get after you, one of the better teams at getting into the backfield. But Clemson, to me, is a team that I do believe is not stressing Cade out in causing or allowing a lot of sacks. And if Tristan Lee is not fully healthy, Clemson actually has a backup that a lot of fans, I think, would agree with me in saying that we kind of trust, even though he's a true freshman, in Braden Jacobs. He's played and had a lot of reps at left tackle. And when we've seen him out there, he's not perfect, but he's definitely serviceable out there. And he's a huge, huge young man, big bodied guy that I think would intimidate anybody out there on the field. If Tristan Lee is out there, I've even said this week that I'd like to still see Braden Jacobs out there just because of how imposing he could be on that offensive line. And because he's younger, he may be just a little bit faster and not as banged up, and his knees might not have as many miles on them, as some of these other guys. Blake Miller also needs to have another clean game at right tackle. I would say his big flaw that you're going to see when he gets into the NFL is that outside rush can hurt him, and those stunts can hurt him to the outside as well. He's got to shore that up and really play his best game. This team is not going to go by way of who is the quarterback. To me, this team and winning this game against SMU is going to go by the way of protecting the quarterback, protecting the screen game, and blocking for the screen game. I really believe that if the offensive line has a good game, then it will allow this quarterback, whoever it is, and Garrett Riley to simplify the game plan, not stress anything out too much, and really work within the confines of the abilities of the quarterback that you have, whether it be Christopher Vezina, Trent Pierman, Chris Denson, whoever it is. Now, if you go line by line, what would you like to see? Well, honestly, what we've seen from the guys is Christopher Vezina, I'd rather see him run and not throw the ball. Okay, so he really needs to be more of a, well, if you think about it, I mean, kind of go back to more of a run first team like what you had with Kelly Bryant. You remember those days. Just have your quarterback be a run first quarterback. There's plenty of successful college offenses out there that do that. And if you have Trent Pierman, he still can run the ball. But honestly, what we've seen in the limited action is Trent Pierman's a little bit better at moving the ball down the field and a little bit better at hitting guys in stride and timing. So maybe you can open up the pass play a little bit with Trent Pierman. But one guy that I can kind of get behind with some of the fans out there on social media is Chris Denson. I mean, what we saw in the spring game was an electric runner that we haven't seen since, really, to be honest with you, even before Deshaun Watson. It's been quite some time. Maybe Kelly Bryant you could throw in there. But if you really want a Kelly Bryant type guy, it seems like Chris Denson could be that guy. And if you go back and look at what he did in high school, he's a pretty versatile dual threat guy that may be able to fit into the offense. But the biggest concern is he ready for any type of action against a team that actually knows how to win football games and is not just in shambles in the locker room or in shambles with the injury report like Boston College. So to me, I know we would, as fans, would love to see that fourth string guy get out there and just tear it up. But to me, that's just not very realistic to think about, I do believe we will learn about this team from the very first drive and what this offense will be able to do. If they come out flat, penalties, or just 3 and out, and even the scripted plays look bad, and they don't get the ball to their playmakers like Adam Randall and Antonio Williams, Bryant Wesco, then I think we're in for a long, long game. And I hate to say that, but Clemson has to show what they can do early on in this game to settle in the fan base as well, as much as settling in their own roster. Because remember, the players are just like us. They often know, hey, this may or may not be good, and it could go bad quickly. And so they have emotions just as much as we do, out there as well. All right, hey, stick with me. Segment 3, we're going to talk about the defense. We're going to shift over to the defense and talk about what type of game plan the defense needs to do to keep SMU in check and solidify a win tomorrow afternoon. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something that goes beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Go Long. That's Rugiet Go Long. This isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Rugiet Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in a dual-action formula so you can get going and keep going. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. The process is quick and discreet. Just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. And if prescribed, your treatment is shipped directly and discreetly to your door. No awkward trips to the pharmacy. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to rugiet.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Make sure you use our code so they know we sent you. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. You know that I love looking over on their research page on FanDuel.com and seeing exactly what the experts think I can do, and really gives me a little bit of tip, because I don't follow every single sport, but it helps me feel confident that I can get into it over on FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com and download the FanDuel app today to get started. Everyone says you got to keep Kevin Jennings in the pocket. And really, that's the plan, and you need to stick to it. But I will say, Clemson can frustrate him if they can push him to be uncomfortable, or in scenarios where he's uncomfortable. It's going to be a huge challenge. Clemson will need to focus on how are they going to get Kevin Jennings uncomfortable. For me, it's going to be on those edge rushers. I think that Will Help and TJ Parker are going to have some really good plays this game, and a really good overall game from start to finish. As much as I want to lean on the tackles on the offensive side of the ball, I really think the edges on the defensive side of the ball will also dictate what happens in this game, because they can kind of be that spy that can trick Jennings into thinking that they're rushing in, but then dropping back a little bit. Clemson does that really well. And recently, we've seen that they've been able to kind of flush a quarterback into more of the opposing rushing lanes by tricking or using 3 defensive ends. Have you noticed that they will have TJ Parker and Will Help and even Jaheim Lawson out there in kind of like a weird looking, I would say 3-4. It's kind of a variation of a 3-4 type of defense, where, sometimes they're bringing in that defensive end, that extra additional defensive end, but sometimes they're bringing in a linebacker instead. I do believe that being disciplined on defense is going to help them contain Kevin Jennings. He's not going to be wanting to run to go down the field running the ball with his legs. He's going to be actually scrambling to change his look and change his angles to be able to throw the ball. And discipline on the defensive line on every passing down, to me, is going to be very vital. You cannot allow a free side of the field or to get sucked in as an edge rusher, sucked into the inside and doubled up and bundled up in the middle, because then Jennings is going to look around and say, okay, I can roll out to my right, I can roll out to my left and not have to worry about it. They possibly need to spy on third and short when SMU spreads you out a ton, because Sammy Brown, I do believe he's good in pursuit. I would rather have Wade Woodaz out in coverage and Sammy Brown out in pursuit of the quarterback. So to me, maybe you spy Sammy Brown, maybe you throw Jeremiah Alexander in on a middle linebacker and have Sammy Brown on the outside and Wade Woodaz in more of a coverage situation. Whatever they've got to do, I believe this kind of game will stress out Tom Allen and be a prove it game for him as well. He's got to prove that he can dominate games or dominate teams that have a little bit more of a pulse than the last two teams that Clemson has played against. The Clemson defense has shot up the ranking boards as far as total defense and yards allowed because of the previous two games, but they really have to show that it wasn't just because those two teams had so many injuries and didn't really know what they were wanting to do. They also need to tackle. I mean, Wade Woodaz has been one that everybody's been really jumping on a lot, and they need to finish their tackles. They need to try everything they can to get back into being opportunistic and getting those turnovers. Players have said that attacking the ball at the point of contact has been a point of emphasis this week, which means as you're wrapping, you start clawing. While you're getting ready to wrap, you wrap and punch at the same time. And so if Clemson can do that and force some turnovers, it all goes back to just easing up the pressure if you don't have your starting quarterback in the game. But this could be a scenario where the crowd rallies around the defense and makes Death Valley again and kind of shuts down this offense in SMU. Believe me, though, they are coming in with a chip on their shoulder. They know a lot of these players were on this team last year when they lost the ACC championship game. The coaching staff was on this team. And so they are coming in with a lot of, anger and purpose. And you remember what happened with other teams like Syracuse. When they come in with a purpose like that, you have to be ready because they're going to attack you. And this game could be a lot like the Syracuse game with Steve Angeli. And that's what worries me a ton, because if you allow Kevin Jennings to just pick you apart, then he will definitely do that. He has enough players to do that. He has enough speed to do that. And he will pick you apart with his playmakers in open space. He's not going to kill you with his run, with his running with his legs running the ball, but he will throw it all over you if you let him. A package that I want you to watch is what they've been talking about with that 3 defensive end look. They call it a rabbit. Sometimes some players called it the cheetah package. It's a type of variation of pass rush that gives a little bit more speed out there because we've seen Clemson has struggled to get into the backfield quick enough. If the edges can hold up and get that additional third defensive end in there in that package, then that could really disrupt Kevin Jennings and the SMU defense or SMU offense. Tom Allen on the sideline also should help the speed and communication. Another thing that we can't really take for granted or forget is that before the bye week, Tom Allen was not on the sideline. So this could be one of those good teams that we actually see, how well this is working and how well the speed and communication and adjustments are being made on demand from the sideline to the field. I do believe it's going to be a big factor. So while I am concerned about this game, and this game could go either way, we could easily go to a post game where we're dealing with another loss and Clemson's 3-4. But to me, I posted out on social media today or yesterday that I believed Clemson could win this game regardless of who the quarterback is. And the reason why I said that is not because I'm just riling up the fan base or I just want to be a contrarian or I don't believe in what I'm saying. I guarantee you everything I put on social media, whether it's humorous or not, or, riling up the fans or not, I do believe it, and there is facts behind it. And there's a purpose behind it. And the reason why I said or tweeted that, posted that, whatever you want to say, is because I do believe that this team has enough talent. We keep going back to they had talent to win those games, but they just didn't win them. And I believe a lot of it has to go back to a coaching failure and how they prepared for games, the players that they used, how they coached during games, and the play calling during games. Well, to me, that has gotten better. And so with those things adjusted, the talent is actually still there. And regardless if a Cade is quarterback or not, I do believe there's enough talent on both sides of the ball to still be a Clemson team that can win this game. And I rely on the fact that the Clemson family and fan base is going to stay behind them. Maybe, just maybe, this is a game you want to hold the Boo Birds in your pocket just because of the concerns that we have going into this game. We know it's going to be a struggle if they are not on schedule. But if the fan base can stay behind them and be that 12th man for Clemson, then it could be the difference maker in this highly contested, difficult ACC matchup tomorrow afternoon. If Clemson hits it and does great, then maybe, just maybe, they have fixed it. And maybe, just maybe, they have been able to prove that the adjustments they made during the bye week will stick for longer than just against the bad teams. Hey, thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. For your second listen, go check out Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs and Alex Dono break down the most interesting conference in all of college sports, from the rivalries to the championships to every game in between. Find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you after the game tomorrow, and we'll see you at the top of the hill.